Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall
Wada.
and Michael Reed.
Hey. Was that assertive?
Yeah, that was very assertive. Welcome to the Burgundy Zone, everybody. We have a great show lined up for you. We're going to go through a little bit around the Redskins news going around right now, the latest and greatest. Go over some Ron Rivera's talking points that he had done in his Zoom interview early today. And then we're going to go into some hypotheticals with the NFL draft. And with that being a week away, and then we'll finish the show with our favorite segment. And that is the 9-player breakdown that we have for you guys. We're going to start with late rounders, then the mid rounders, and early rounders, unless you're Mike Reed and you just do straight early rounders.
No, I did it right this time.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, I got to, because it just sucks because there's so many people that I want to talk about all the time. But this time I was like, you know what? I'll just don't dig deep into the draft this time.
They might as well. And speaking of digging deep, the Redskins dug deep this week, and they announced a kind of they floated it on Twitter. It kind of had a backlash on Twitter. I'm not sure if you guys saw this, but all week the Redskins had pondered this whole idea that they were releasing something big in regards to the draft, and it got everyone very hyped. And it come to find out that they were announcing that Wale is going to be in attendance at the draft party, and he has 3 new Redskins songs that he's going to be doing with them. What was your guys' first initial reaction?
Can I start this off real quick? All right, I'm gonna do that. It could be worse. We could have been Jay Glazer. You see what Jay Glazer did?
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Jay Glazer put out that tweet saying, "I got huge news, national news tomorrow night. It's not funny. Nobody make fun of it." I thought a player was gonna come out of the closet like Aaron Rodgers, and it ended up just being an NFL player has COVID, but he's okay. He's asymptomatic. He's like tight. All right, cool. Thanks, man. Thanks for trying to get views. But I mean, the Redskins social media has been doing such a good job lately. The chick who's running their social media page now has been fantastic. But yeah, I was very disappointed by this news. I mean, it's cool that I like Wale, but I mean, I thought that this was going to be a lot bigger. I thought this was going to be because the Redskins have been doing so much big stuff and like kind of being front runners this offseason in terms of like they were the first team to not let their scouts go, first team to not or to turn their stadium into a testing facility.
To hire a full-term intern that was a female.
Yeah. And first team to there's something else. What was it? First team to do the virtual draft stuff. But this, I mean, so that's why it was kind of disappointing. Still cool, but it's definitely disappointing in my opinion.
Yeah, because I was sitting here thinking, you know, when they said they had a big announcement and everyone, even the Browns, were coming out with a new jersey, I was sitting here thinking like, oh man, are they unleashing like a specialty jersey? You know, because this would be a good time to do so, in my opinion. Yeah. The reason being is because it's a regime change. You know, you want to make sure it's an easy transition. You need a new identity, and this would be a really good time to try to bring a new identity with it, with what you're bringing to the team. So I thought it'd be a good idea for them to do that at this point. But I'll settle with Wale. I like Wale. I hate to say settle because he's a great rapper, but the fact is it's just not what I was expecting.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm literally like the same as both of you, same exact points. Like, it's not anything that I was expecting, honestly. That was like, if you would have had me guess 5 things, that would have never even popped up. But, I mean, like, Wale's cool. He's obviously from the D.C., or Montgomery County area.
Yeah, he's from Germantown, where we grew up.
Yeah, right. He's a Redskins fan. Like, he's always been supporting the team since he first blew up. He's going to do 3 Redskins songs, which I guess is pretty cool. So, I mean, could have been some, like, cooler, like, hyped up news, like they made it. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I like that how the new regime's reaching out and, like, ingratiating the fans and trying to bring the fans in and hopefully trying to get the fans back to the stadium, which is what happened.
Yeah, you're complete. That's one thing that I have noticed that this new regime has been trying to do. A lot of the players that they signed are local players who grew up Redskins fans. They're trying to kind of incorporate this area a lot more to bring the fans back. Because last year, I mean, we would be the perfect team to play in empty stadiums this year and not in front of an audience because we did it last year. I mean, nobody showed up to the games anyway.
Is no one going to say this? I have been saying that for years upon years. What the Redskins need are players that want to play here, that care about the area. Yeah, that want to have to have some sort of pride. I've been saying it for years, and thank goodness Ron is actually coming in, and Kyle Smith is coming in here and actually doing that. And you're absolutely right, because that's the way I see it too. There's no reason to sit here and say that, half the fan base wouldn't like Wale or whatever have you. But I just, the douche in me wants to sit here and make a joke and say, did you have to make an announcement about that?
Right.
Yeah.
And get everybody's hopes up. Let's be honest. This is a C- announcement. We all give this probably a C-. Very average. Nobody's excited. Nobody's really pissed, but it could have been better.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's one of those things where if you had heard like the day of, Wale's gonna be at the draft party and he has 3 new songs, like, all right, dope. I might tune in.
Yeah, if you didn't build up anticipation, it would have been a lot better.
But
honestly,
Hall.
I thought the news. I just was gonna say, like, honestly, I thought the news was gonna be like something about like something like draft related, how they're gonna like, I don't know, like trade back or like something crazy like that. Or I thought it was gonna be like something Alex Smith related, where he was just gonna like announce his retirement and say I'm moving to the front office or something like that. But like Reed said, definitely very, very average announcement.
This is the equivalent of being an adult and getting socks for Christmas. Like, it's like you appreciate it, like it's cool, like you need it, like you're happy, but it's also like, okay, what else? That was cheap.
Like, did you need to wrap it?
Right.
Yeah.
I feel bad saying that, but I'm excited because the one
Let's hope
issue
Wale doesn't watch this.
Right. And the one issue I have though is like, because the draft party and everything, like I get the Redskins doing this, but like with it being a virtual draft and everything, what's the point of even doing that when you're going to be watching ESPN anyway? You're going to be watching the NFL and watching the draft, so I don't really understand. But maybe it's like set up like a concert, so like it's not going on during the draft, but it's going on before or after.
Performs in his living room.
Is that? Oh my god, that's probably what's going to happen, Reed.
That would be so funny. Yeah, like all those DJs on Facebook right now going on live.
One of our buddies that we're friends with about a year ago, his brother is a rapper, and he said that he was with Wale the night before, and we were like, what? And he was like, yeah, dude, my brother's a rapper, he's coming up, he got invited to this Wale release party of this new song with us, so we went out and hung out. I was like, okay, so I went and I looked at like Wale's Instagram. I noticed that he was like in France the night before. And I was like, oh god. And so I wanted to make a joke here and say that Wale is going to be recording from Cleveland's living room,
live from Damascus.
There you go. The fucking social media strikes again. Calls out somebody else. Social media never lies.
Oh, Cleve, I love that kid, man. He brings me so much joy.
Speak that we can like do our draft like live so I can just like be around Cleveland.
I know. And freaking out every time somebody gets picked. You have to imagine Cleveland is like, if you had anxiety to the max about the Redskins and you were a complete pessimist, that would be Cleveland about every situation.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I know a lot of Redskins fans that fit that mold, to be perfectly honest. And I can't blame them either. But let's move on. And I want one thing that came across the Twitter today was O.J. Howard possibly being on the trading block with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, Hall, I'll go to you first. I want to get your opinion. Hypothetically speaking, if you were the GM, if you were Kyle Smith and Ron Rivera calling the shots there at Redskins Park, what would it take for you to give up Trent for O.J. Howard? Would you do it straight up, or what would you need?
Yeah, the minimum I guess I would try to do would be straight up just Trent for OJ. Obviously, it's a win-win for both sides. They get a left tackle to hold it down for Tom Brady for the next 2 years plus, if he decides to stay more than 2 years. And obviously, we get an up-and-coming, hopefully great tight end that's going to be used more in our offense. And again, going back to Scott Turner's offense, it's a tight end eccentric offense. And when you have a great tight end like O.J. Howard that can stretch the field, it'll do wonders for Dwayne Haskins. But I would say the maximum I would try to get, I would just start off, I would say, is give us O.J. Howard in like a 4th or 5th round pick for Trent, and minimum just straight up.
I like your idea there. I like your thought process. The thing is with me, I think it has to come with a third, because if we could grab O.J. Howard in a third, I know that everyone is saying that's crazy, but the thing is Trent Williams has value in the NFL, people, and his value is a lot more than O.J. Howard's. And the fact is the Buccaneers need to get a left tackle, and they need to get somebody that can play left tackle right now and do it well. And that's what Trent brings. And as little as leverage the Redskins have, I would only do it for Trent in a third, because in that way you would have 3 third-rounders, and you could use 2 of those to try to move up into the second round. That's the reason why I would do it, and that reason alone. Besides that, I'm not taking that O.J. Howard deal. We have a lot of tight ends here, and I'm willing to bet that Pete Honer, the coach, the tight end coach, is going to be able to get a lot out of them. Reed, do you agree with Hall?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it would be ideal to get a pick in that trade, but at this point, with everything going on with Trent, I would take it straight up. I mean, that would kind of eliminate, I think, the need to take a tight end fairly early at number 3. You could instead turn, or 3 or 4, and instead you could turn to offensive tackle or whatever, even though I know they're going best player available. But, I mean, at this point, yeah, with everything going on with Trent, I just kind of want him out of here right now. I would do it. I think, like I said, though, it would be ideal. What about the other trade, though, that was kind of hypothesized for a Riley Reef? Did you see that one?
Oh, for the Vikings?
So yeah, it was the Vikings traded us 2 4th-round picks, a 5th-round pick, and Riley Reef for Trent. Riley Reef. I would do that. I mean, you get 2 4th-round picks, so we would have 4 total. You can move. We would have 2 5th-round picks then, and then you get a solid average starter at right tackle for a year, or at left tackle for a year or 2. I would do it.
But did you see Riley Reef's stats from last year? I mean, like,
no, but dude, I mean, it's got to be better than what we currently have.
No, so Donald Penn, I think, only gave up 13 rushes or something like that. Riley Reef gave up like something in the 40s or 30s.
Yeah,
it was
I
putrid.
He's not, but I mean, right now, I mean, then you get ammo. Really, what I'm talking about is the draft picks.
Right, I know, I got you. And
you
look,
can package, you can move around, and then an average to below average starter. You know?
And look, I agree with you. I think that 4 4th-round picks would be a luxury, and I think something that they would use, especially in this left tackle heavy draft. What about you, Hall? Do you think that they should do that?
I mean, yeah, it is a lot of ammo, and then that could definitely be packaged to try to move up into the second round somewhere, and definitely take a left tackle, a promising up-and-coming left tackle there. That could potentially be the starter and have Reef be the backup. So I do potentially like that, but I definitely like what you went the first trade, where I didn't even think about like a 3rd-round pick. I was just being like, I guess, like realistic, but a 3rd-round pick, you should definitely start.
There's nothing wrong with that, Mike.
But I was just like, damn, what am I doing? Like, you should always like start high and then go low. So like, you should definitely like Trent a 3rd, or O.J. Howard in the 3rd should definitely be like the starting point. So I definitely like that trade, but yeah, I would go with the Riley Reef trade just because of the ammo of the picks you would get.
And I know that was just a hypothetical based on the 4th-rounders, because nobody really knows 100%. But I think based on where the Redskins are right now, and if you had to put those 2 trades side by side to one another,
you got to take the O.J. Howard one.
Yeah, I'm not sure, dude. I think I might want to go with Minnesota there, just because the amount of picks and the left tackles in the draft.
Right.
And if you think
Howard has struggled throughout his career so far, he's been a big disappointment.
And if you look at the track record, the last 2, maybe even 3 years of the 4th, 5th-round picks, even 6th, 7th-round picks of the Redskins, and Kyle Smith, they found some gems. So you can always find a couple gems with those extra picks.
Exactly, I completely agree.
And it'd be really funny after all these Redskins fans that have been clamoring and really wanting the Redskins to trade back from the number 2 spot for multiple picks. And the Redskins do get multiple picks out of a trade, but it's not the one that they think of.
Yeah.
That might be the way that it goes around. But look, it looks like that's the only way that this Trent scenario is going to go. And it sucks to say that this is how usually I've heard this from beat reporters, and I've heard this from people that worked in the Redskins front office. This is how all relationships end in Redskins Park, and that is in flames, which looks like the way this is headed. So hopefully they get that done sooner rather than later. And speaking of flames, today the Redskins and Ron Rivera had another Zoom press conference that they're doing weekly, and a couple things that pointed out to me that I wanted to bounce back and forth with you guys. I wanted your guys' opinions. It got recently reported the Redskins would go with best player available. Now, that has me wondering, because then I wanted to reach out to Ron Rivera, and I wanted to ask you guys this. If a player is more pro-ready, if they're able to go into pro-style offense, if they're more respected in being able just to do your regular tackles, are they more valuable than a player that has the talent but needs to sit? Where does that go in their value chart? You know, when they say best player available, because I want to sit here and say, you know, maybe you think Alex Taylor is one of the best left tackles in this draft, but he needs a year or two to develop, or do you go with Prince Tegawanoho, who can go right now? You know, and what would you do, Reed, if you were in that with that value pick there? How are you going to break it down?
I think that best player available is somebody that can come in and contribute until you get into the later rounds. At that point, you can, if you have somebody who's rated higher based on their ability, or somebody who you think down the road can be a starter, and you have them as the best player available, I still think that you go that route. Now, this best player available thing kind of tells me that they're going to do kind of the same thing that they did in free agency almost, where they're going to try to provide depth to this football team. They're going to try to actually build this football team from the ground up, which is a good thing. You want as many talented players as you can, no matter what position they are. So, I mean, if you hit on these players, great, fantastic. And plus, I always think that that's a better draft strategy anyway. That way you don't kind of overreach for somebody. And they're just, this first season, I think, is really just about building the foundation of the team, getting depth, getting your guys distinguished for who you want to build around. So I like that. I do a lot.
I agree. Yeah. Sorry, go Hall.
Oh, so my bad. I was just gonna go along those lines too. Also, and go with the Ron Rivera. Ever since he's came here, from the get-go, he said he's gonna bring in. He wants competition. He's gonna breed competition. So, in my opinion, best player available means that they're gonna draft someone that's gonna be able to come in and push and compete to possibly contribute right away, and like I said, breed competition. And so I just think that's what that he means, as long as along the lines of best player available. He wants to bring in competition and as well as depth.
Right, makes your team better, makes every player better to get pushed, even if they're already a starter.
Exactly.
And the Redskins are the second overall pick this year. It's not like anybody on this team can sit and say that they have a stabilized roster spot, to say the least. One thing I wanted to, before we get into the player breakdown, I wanted to, before we get into the draft, I know this is really ridiculous to do, but based on where the Redskins are now, I want to pick your guys' brains. Hall, I'll go to you first. What do you think the Redskins' record will be at the end of the next season?
That's actually funny, because I was going to bring that up. I was like, you see the win totals came out. What do you guys think?
Right.
I saw that it was 4.5, and I think that's just like, I'm not going to say ridiculously low, because, I mean, we only won 3 games last year. But just based on the new coaching regime that's in there, just the way things are run now, and I think that the way that the defense is going to play next year, as well as the run game and the offense, I would definitely go 6 wins at minimum, just based off the teams that we play. And I think that the defense will win us at least 3 to 5 games by themselves.
Yeah. I completely agree with you, Hall. I think that I completely understand why they're at 4.5. Is it 4.5?
Yeah.
Wins that they're projected or something. I completely understand that. I would personally put them around 6, but I mean, I get it in this division. It all kind of relies on Haskins. We know that the defense is going to be improved. It just, what kind of a step can Haskins take? And if he doesn't do anything, then we're going to be picking near the top of the draft again next year. And if he plays well, then we should actually have a decent season. So
I actually have to disagree with you guys. I think they're completely wrong, and I know I said that last season. I know.
And the season before that.
Right, but the fact is, last season I felt was an anomaly. The Redskins generally do not pick this high in the draft. They are generally a better team, and the fact is, they had just fired their coach early in the season. They had Bill Callahan as their interim head coach. They didn't know what they were doing at the quarterback position. They didn't know who the running back was going to be. They were relying on Adrian Peterson, who's obviously very good, but, you know, it's kind of a shambles situation. Greg
They-
Minuski shouldn't have
yeah.
been a defensive
I was
coordinator.
just about to say they had somebody who shouldn't have even been coaching the defense.
Right, and they had their left tackle not show up and play football last year. So, and their star pro football left tackle. So I think that was an anomaly. I think that this is a good football team that when they're brought together and they're structured, I think they can be a very, very good football team. And I think that's what's developing here because the Redskins players that are in the building right now, the Alabama boys, those are dudes that are not used to losing. And they are not down to just sit and just wait for Trevor Lawrence or a high pick next year. They want to win now.
Right.
And I think that this is a team that is around a 500 ball club right now, all depending on Dwayne Haskins. But if he does his best version of Alex Smith, he game manages the football game, doesn't turn over the football, lets the run game do its thing, and just be able to extend on third downs, then this is a team that could creep into the playoffs with the expansion or being a wild card this year. I think this is a legit thing. It's all based on Dwayne, in my opinion.
Yeah, same. Completely agree.
No, I agree. You know me, I'm Mr. Every year. You know me, I'm Mr. 9-7, 10-6, just based off of what we have already as player wise.
Yeah.
But I just, I'm just gonna take it nice and steady and slow this year.
We got humbled as Redskins fans last year.
Right.
We thought the draft. I'll go from there.
Right. We thought Alex Smith coming in here and almost taking us to the playoffs. Like, oh man, it's a good team.
Yeah.
No. Don't hold that to him. Okay, so let's move on to the best part of the podcast episode, baby. Let's go in to the 9-player breakdown, and I'm gonna start it off for us. I picked Jalen Hurts, the quarterback from Oklahoma. Everyone knows about his history with Alabama, being ticked off. I wanted to bring that up first because I love his game and where he's developed. You can tell that he now takes the game very seriously. And I love his ability of being able to hit on touch footballs. Throwing at the CeeDee Lamb was kind of made life easy for him in a way. But he reminds me of Russell Wilson, kind of that smaller frame. He's able to get outside the pocket. He abandons the pocket at times. But he has that ability to this point to show that he can sit in the pocket and he can make the throws. The only problem is it takes too long. He's missing that elite kind of arm strength. I don't think that he can make it in the NFL as a starter. I think, if somebody drafted him and if the Miami put him on the field tomorrow, I think he's going to get destroyed. But if he goes to Seattle, if he can learn behind Russell Wilson, who has perfected the art of being able to throw from inside the pocket, scramble to avoid the rush, and being able to hit guys downfield while outside, you can be unstoppable at times. Russell Wilson has proved that, and Jalen Hurts has the ability to do so. The thing is, it's all based on who takes him. I like him a lot. His pocket maturity is where he kind of separates himself from a lot of these guys. I don't like Jordan Love's film for this reason alone. I think he abandons the pocket way too early. And Jalen Hurts is very good at that. Alabama was good in making sure that his offensive line was always built and he had a good running game, and he did a good job here. My only problem is, would Jordan Love come in and step on Oklahoma tomorrow and throw for what Jalen Hurts did? And that's where I have the problem with Jalen Hurts. But if he goes to somebody who is smart, knows how to use them, and also can give him some weapons around him, he could make it in the NFL and he could be a surprise. I like my comparison for him. I hate to do it. It's gonna be Doug Flutie, baby. I'm gonna give Jalen Hurts a Doug Flutie comp. But let's move on to Mr. Paul, who also has a QB with us, and that is going to be Anthony Gordon, the late rounder. I have not heard his name yet, Hall.
Yeah, he was one of those guys that if you watched college football last year, his name was kind of buzzing. He's in the pass-heavy Mike Leach offense up in Washington State. He was the backup to Gardner Minshew in 2018. They battled it out in camp, but obviously Gardner Minshew won the job. It was a close battle, and then obviously jumping up last year, he became the starter. He had a 71.6% completions last year. He threw for 5,579 yards, which was second behind Joe Burrow, and he threw for 48 touchdowns and 16 interceptions, which is a 3-to-1 ratio, which is pretty damn good. Some of his strengths are he throws with a very, very, very great touch consistently. He had 9 games this past season that were over 400 yards passing. which you can take that with a grain of salt because it's a pass-heavy offense. He has a very compact delivery, which is a great NFL trait. His lead passes downfield. He throws the wide receivers open, which is in the NFL you're going to really need to do that with the coverage that the NFL DBs provide.
Mm-hmm.
He's willing to sit and go through his progressions in the pocket, which again NFL level you're going to need that when a lot of the times the first and second read are not going to be there right away. Excuse me. He throws with anticipation. His intermediate middle throws down the field in between the seams. And like I said before, he throws wide receivers open, and he throws his wide receivers like away from the defender so they don't get hit, take the big shot. And again, another NFL trait that you need going forward, he hits wide receivers in stride, which is another trait from a passing offense of Mike Leach where there's a lot of bubble screens, a lot of like wide like touch screen passes like that where you got to hit the person in stride. But again, he's a late round pick for a reason. So some of his weaknesses are his frame is very slim and underdeveloped. What else? He has very spotty footwork. His arm strength is below average, so he lacks the NFL tight window arm talent. On his deep passes, he tends to float them because of his lack of his arm strength sometimes, which in turn allows the safety to recover and usually either bat the ball down, make a play, intercept the ball, whatnot.
I feel like we just evaluated the same person.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Except for Jalen Hurts can scramble, and this guy, when he scrambles, he said he has very heavy legs, meaning that he's not very nimble, I would say. He's just going to try to get you 2 or 3 yards and probably slide. Excuse me. But with the right quarterback and the right team, the right quarterback coach, like Tampa Bay with like Bruce Arians maybe, you get to sit behind Tom Brady for the 2 years that he's there, learn the game behind him, or maybe like a Matt Nagy, a very QB eccentric coach, a very QB friendly offense, sit up there, learn the offense a couple years in. You never know what could happen. He could turn out to be a Tom Brady type prospect. Yeah, but right now he's projected between the 5th round and to be a high priority free agent. So I could definitely go. I'll split it down the middle and say 6th round pick.
Yeah, and I think he'd be a really interesting prospect. I think the Saints continue to come up with him because look, they got to replace Teddy Bridgewater, and late QB rounds that would make a lot of sense for them. Sorry, Reed, what were you saying?
I was just gonna say one thing about Anthony Gordon is he might also have definitely has one of if not the fastest releases in the class. Like when he throws it, he flicks his wrist pretty hard. He's got a very quick release. And it's interesting to see. A lot of people think that he could be the next Gardner Minshew, who comes in and actually plays almost immediately.
I actually compared him on my comparison. I put a less mobile Gardner Minshew. So
yeah, there you go.
He was one of those people that he went to the Senior Bowl this past season, and he was one of those guys that a lot of scouts have their eye on.
He's one of those hidden gems. And speaking of them, there's a possibility the Redskins were gonna have to go tackle late in this draft. And there's somebody who I've seen mock drafts on Twitter left and right with the name Trey Adams. So, Mike Reed, please tell me about this cat.
Trey Adams, man, one of the saddest stories in college football for the last few years. It sucks. Trey Adams, he's an offensive tackle from Washington State. He played left tackle basically from the time he stepped on campus. He was a pretty big recruit. He's 6'8", 318 pounds. He ran a 5'6", 40, a 24.5-inch vertical, 92-inch broad jump. Now, this is why I say it's sad. Back in 2017, Trey Adams was considered a player that would definitely leave Washington early, and he would be a high draft pick. He was always the first offensive tackle in mock drafts. He was always, for the last few years, as soon as mock drafts come out for the following year, he was always up there. Always. Like he was supposed to enter in the 2018 draft, and then he got hurt. But I'll get into that more during the weaknesses. But yeah, back then he had he has fantastic size, but he also had good athleticism, and his game tape was phenomenal. He has broad hips and very broad waist, big lower half. He does a nice job of resetting his hands when he loses positioning. That's one thing that you used to see very well from him back in 2017, and then he kind of regained that a little bit in 2019. He overcame adversity over a 2-year span with back-to-back injuries, major injuries, and he is still a capable pull blocker despite his speed. He still gets out there and he can still use his length to kind of get in front of some guys. And he's got good body control and does a good job of blocking in space. Like I said, he uses his size to his advantage, and he definitely has to now that he's lost some athleticism. But for his weaknesses, he's had serious injuries for 2 years. He had an ACL tear in 2017 and a surgery for a bulging disc in 2018. So that cut both those seasons completely short, missed almost the entire seasons. He has an underdeveloped chest for an NFL offensive tackle. It looks kind of weird. He has a big lower half, but then he's kind of thin up top. He just looks flabby. His playing length, like his arm length, doesn't match his height on tape, and he kind of looks like a T-Rex. He's got nice short arms, left tackle, and his play strength is just not up to par right now. He gets bullied sometimes by some stronger defenders. A lot of high motor rushers seem to definitely overwhelm him at times in the 2019 tape, and he definitely lost some of his athleticism because of those injuries. And then read what I wrote here for a weakness. Last but not least, and I'm serious, just Google this. He is hideous, very ugly guy. Might scare some teammates with his long mongoloid face. Just Google him. He's an odd-looking human with long hair. It just doesn't fit. For a comparison, I wrote, if he pans out and kind of gets his athleticism back, which is something that could happen, I would totally be okay with taking a late-round flyer on him because, like I said, the skill's there, the potential's there. As long as he can get healthy and get back to where he was, he could be a decent player for us. I mean, it wasn't long ago he was considered one of the top prospects in college football. I've kind of seen some Matt Khalil comparisons. I could also see maybe a Cordy Glenn where he's big but has some injury concerns and is never really above average starter or anything. But and how he fits, I wrote he might be a guy that the Skins take a flyer on in the 7th as a developmental guy. His tape pre-injury was amazing, excellent footwork, plus athlete, strong base. But if he is the guy that you saw in the 2019 tape, which, by the way, he was still Pac-12 all-first team, then he would have a hard time with NFL defenders. He's not strong enough right now, and I would be okay with the Skins taking a flyer on him in the 7th or as an undrafted free agent with hopes he comes back close to his pre-injury form. And prediction, I would say 7th rounder, undrafted free agent. I just don't think he's there. His 2019 tape definitely didn't show him being at an NFL level.
I'm going to have to disagree. I think he will be drafted this year. And what it sounds like to me is it sounds like to me it sounds like he's smart. It sounds like he like you could plug him in tomorrow and he'd be able to play left tackle. It's just his athletic ability and injury concerns are a problem.
Mentally he could. Mentally he definitely could.
Right, that's what I mean.
Like there's a reason, but it's just when you watch him this 2019 tape, man, it's sad. Maybe it's because I watched this 2017 tape before that, so I had my expectations high. I thought I'd see some of the same things, but his 2019 tape, man, I know he was still all Pac-12 first team, but he was getting bullied around at times. He was, and it was his first season playing after a major injury. Maybe that has a lot to do with it. But some of those guys he should have manhandled, and he just didn't.
Yeah, and that makes you wonder if he forced himself back too quickly because of the NFL draft, knowing where he was, not liking it. He
did put out a tape that I saw on Twitter maybe about a month ago of him pushing a truck after Mekhi Becton did it. And it looked great. The scenery was great. And then his ugly fucking face just popped up. And you were just like, God, come on, man. Thank God he's wearing a helmet when he's playing. Because I would not want to watch that every Sunday.
Oh, God. Oh, man. I thank goodness for Mike Reed. You know, bless the Lord. All right, I'm gonna take this one over. Let's move this over to middle round. Let's bring us back to earth here. I have Sadiq Charles, the left tackle from LSU.
Love Sadiq Charles.
6'4", 321 pounds, 33-inch arms and 10-inch hands. He missed 6 games for disciplinary reasons in 2019. Only played in 9 games. In 2018, he missed 3 games due to injury. Now, just from his film that I watched, and I've done breakdowns, obviously I've said this, daily of defensive linemen and offensive linemen. So I've done it on Anthony Jennings, the edge rusher for Alabama. And when you put the tape of LSU versus Alabama, you'll watch Jennings beat the shit out of Charles. And he does it with ease. And the thing is with Charles, he has the athletic ability. Let me read to you guys a couple of my points about him. I wrote that he was athletic. The bear hug block that he uses seems to take guys over because of how strong he is. His long arms, being able to bear hug somebody, defenders are having a hard time being able to rip through that and get underneath those blocks. And then the backside runner cutoff. Basically, it's called a pivot block. And let's say if you're running a power right, so let's say you're running to the right behind the right guard, he at left tackle would move his waist, his left foot, over to where his backside is and stop the runner from moving up the line of scrimmage. He's very good at that, sealing that backside edge of the line of scrimmage, making sure no trailing tackler comes in to get him. But then here we come to the weaknesses, and I saw a lot of it, and I think at the next level, Sadiq Charles is going to struggle, and if his disciplinary reasons continue to show in the NFL, he's not going to make it. And he's top-heavy, his footwork is inconsistent, and he doesn't have consistent balance all throughout his stances. If you go back and watch his film, you'll see him make a block and then go to the ground. Like, why are you falling to the ground, Charles? Like, have control of your body. What are you doing? Just going over and doing too much at times. But one thing I took away from his tape that I really enjoyed watching was he has a natural ability of doing the push-off block. And Mike knows as when defensive line does a stunt, the defensive tackle will go to the right tackle, and the edge rusher will loop back inside over the guard's face to try to get an open lane to the quarterback. Sadiq Charles has a great job of pushing those blockers off and making sure that both guys gets blocked, talking with the guard and being able to see things. And another thing I did see was that him and the guard called out a blitz. They changed up the line protection and stopped the secondary blitz from happening on their 10-yard line. I did want to make a point about that because I thought that was a very smart play by Charles. I like him for the Redskins pick in the 4th round or 5th. Because of the disciplinary reasons, I don't think bringing a guy like that into a situation where the Redskins are trying to build a foundation is a very smart move. He should go somewhere where he's going to develop behind somebody else. But I think that he is a good pro, and I think I gave him – oh, man, of course I don't have my rating for him right here. I gave him a 6.7 out of 10, which is basically he can be a starter, but in a shortened offseason, I don't think it's going to happen. I think he needs work.
Can I tell you why I like Sadiq Charles so much? I completely agree. I think 4th or 5th round, that's where we would take him. Yeah. And I think you're 100% right. Right now, he's not ready to play tackle in the NFL, but I do think that he can make the transition inside to guard and actually be a very good guard.
Oh, without a doubt.
That would be perfect. Right. 6'4", he's powerful. I think he could definitely end up playing guard, and that's probably where he will end up playing. Because you're right, he's just not disciplined enough. He gets beat too often by some rushers, and I've seen him have problem with speed rushers and power rushers. So in the NFL, people are only going to get stronger and faster. So I think inside, is where his future is in the NFL if he wants to be successful.
Yeah, and the weird thing is I keep seeing everyone on Twitter talk about how good the LSU offensive line was, and I keep looking at the film and saying, where is it? I don't see this great offensive line that you guys are talking about. I see them getting their ass whooped all the time and Joe Burrow running away.
Right. They were more hype, I think, than anything else, just because Joe Burrow did so good and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, so people figured. But you're right. I mean, anytime I've watched Joe Burrow, he's constantly running for his life. They do a good job at times. I still like Lloyd Cushenberry, but I think you're 100% right. I think they're very overrated.
Now, the weird thing is my draft chart, for whatever reason, I had to go to 2 different sites. One site said he was weighing at 295. The other was saying he was weighing at 321. You want him at that 321. At 295, he's not strong enough to play in the NFL.
He's at 321. Use the NFL.com.
Okay.
The previous thing that they always have it right.
All right, now let's move on to the good buddy. Let's move on to Michael Hall, who has Zack Moss, the very interesting running back prospect.
Love Zack Moss, too.
I want to hear about him. Please tell me.
Yeah, love Zack Moss. Actually, cousins with Santana Moss, so there goes a little bit of ties right there. He's 5'9", 223. Ran a 4.6 at the combine, which is not very ideal for a running back, but he's more of a game speed guy more than like a straight line 40 guy, I guess.
100%.
Yeah. And he ran a 4.37 in the 20-yard shuffle, which is pretty agile and quick for a guy his size. 2018, he was going to actually enter the NFL draft. He was all Pac-12 that year. He ran for 1,092 yards with 11 touchdowns, but a knee injury kept him out of the draft that year. He decided to come back, give it another go. He ended up being third team All-American that year and first team All-Conference. You'd like to see that his stats improve, which they did. He ran for 1,416 yards that last year with 15 touchdowns. And they also used him in the pass game with 28 receptions for 388, which is a 14-yard average, give or take, with 2 touchdowns. He's projecting the 3rd or 4th round right now. I definitely see him going mid-3rd at the earliest, late 3rd, early 4th at like the latest, I guess. Some of his strengths are he's an aggressive runner with great vision, balance, patience, and wiggle. I know I said great again. I gotta stop saying great.
No, you could say great.
That's just always my filler word. I can't help it.
I was about to say, I didn't even notice it. There you go.
Neither did I.
Got me all self-conscious now, man. But he's a great. Damn, I did it again. See. A team like the 49ers that run like Kyle Shanahan, that runs a lot of like zone inside and zone outside schemes and concepts, would fall in love with this guy. He's a excellent zone heavy runner. He has adequate burst inside when running inside, and he has a very, very, very good feel for running lanes. I wrote this down and I highlighted it because he just runs with so much aggression that he ends arm tacklers' careers. He has elite contact balance, meaning that the first hit usually not going to go down. It's going to take 2 to 3 hits to get him down. And another thing I highlighted was he absorbs contact like a cement truck, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. I'll get into that with the weaknesses. And another thing that he does, which I kind of compared it to Zeke watching some of his tape, he squares his pads and finishes his runs just like Zeke does in the NFL. And obviously, if you keep bullying over people throughout the game, 4th quarter comes along, you're not going to hit that guy that much anymore. He has a small space power, which he can move the piles. So fantasy-wise, goal line, might be able out there taking a lot of goal line touchdowns. And obviously 3rd and inches, 2nd and short, 4th and inches. He's a chain mover. And if need be, because they use him in the passing game and he's growing in the passing game, as a pass blocker, he's pretty average. He has above average catching, like hands or whatever. And so if you need him to be a 3rd down back in the beginning of his career, he can handle those duties. So watching him and like knowing, like I watched a couple Utah games last year. I definitely compared him. I gave him 2 comparisons. And one of his comparisons I put was Marshawn Lynch, just because of his style that he runs. He's very aggressive. Yeah. But I did another comparison was Marion Barber, who again was a young Marshawn Lynch, aggressive runner, very violent, but injuries ended his career very early, which could also be a detriment for Zach Moss. Yes. Some of his weaknesses are he's a tight hip runner sometimes. So when he needs to make a cut, he has to make a couple gathering steps, which obviously in NFL, the game speed, you're going to get tackled trying to make some additional gathering steps to make a cut. And durability, like I said, because of previous injuries and the style that he runs with, it might be a problem going forward. But if he's a running back in committee, I think that he would do just fine. And again, his 4.6 40 speed on breakaways, say he gets to the 2nd, 3rd level, he's not going to break off a 56-yard touchdown run. He doesn't have like elite runaway NFL speed, so he might get hawked down, shoelace tackled. And this is a small thing that could be fixed. He has fumbling issues, which again, like I said, can be fixed. So yeah, that's Zach Moss for you.
Well, let me ask you a question, Hall, before you go. Would you take Zach Moss or Jonathan Taylor?
Ooh. I would probably take Zach Moss because Jonathan Taylor just has so much wear and tear at Wisconsin, such a run-heavy team. And I think that Zach Moss is a better in the pass game than Jonathan Taylor. But, again, if you get Jonathan Taylor in a running back by committee where he's like sharing the load, like Melvin Gordon say, I could definitely see him doing some things. But right now, my style, NFL, I'd take Zach Moss.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I'm not very high on Jonathan Taylor, especially his fumbling issues are just like out of this world.
Yeah.
Like his fumbling issues are just crazy. He had 18 in his over the last 3 years. Like, ugh.
Exactly.
All right, and so
Exactly.
that finishes up Zach Moss. So let's move on to another running back, A.J. Dillon, Boston College running back. Michael Reed, let's hear about him.
Ooh, AJ Dillon. AJ Dillon's another one. I love Zach Moss. AJ Dillon's another kind of guy who's similar to him in a sense. He's one of my favorite running backs in this draft, especially to get in the mid rounds. So AJ Dillon, he's a running back for Boston College. He's 6 foot even, 247 pounds, and ran a 4.53 40,
Wow.
23 reps of 225. He had a 41-inch vertical at 247,
Whoa.
131-inch broad jump, and a 7.193 cone. So he rushed for over 1,000 yards the last 3 years. Ever since he came in, he started right away when he was a true freshman. Ran for almost 1,600 yards on 300 attempts. And he had 14 touchdowns. He did not have a catch, though, his freshman season. 2018, he ran for 1,100 yards, which was a 4.9 average and 10 touchdowns. He had 8 catches that year for 41 yards. And then last year, 2019, when he was a junior, he rushed for almost 1,700 yards on 318 attempts, which is a 5.3 average with 14 touchdowns, caught 13 balls. So as you can tell, this guy is a freak. Athletic, his strengths, he's got a tank build, and he has good vision and finesse when he runs. He crushed the combine, especially for his size. The 41-inch vertical at 247 is just insane. He will move piles, and he will leap over them at the goal line. He's somebody, give him the ball. He at the goal line, he will jump over that line if you need him to. He's done it numerous times. He is a bowling ball that absorbs contact well. You can't bring him down with just arm tackles. He's patient when reading blocks, and he's decisive once he sees a lane. He will pick it and just go. He'll just drive right up that lane, and he's hard to bring down. He's a north-south runner, but at times he can also get outside on pitches and zone runs and use some of that 4.53 speed. He has an ignorant stiff arm, and just has the size and build to take on blitzing linebackers. Sometimes he's just too big. He's the size of these linebackers, bigger than some of them, and he's just bigger. He can just take them on. For his weaknesses, though, he's a high mileage. He's a high mileage runner. He's been pounded into the ground all throughout high school. He was one of the top recruits in college the last 3 years. Had over 300 carries each year. Or I'm sorry, 227 second year. But that's got to wear on you.
Yeah.
Multiple scouting reports that I've read on him say that scouts are worried about his long-term durability. He isn't very creative when his hole closes up. So once a hole's stuffed, he's not going to cut back. He's not going to try to find another one. He's kind of just that's where he's going. He didn't have as many breakaway runs as his stats / combine numbers would suggest. I only saw maybe 2 in the 4 games that I watched of the actual breakaway runs.
Right.
He's not a natural pass catcher. 0 catches as a true freshman. Needs work in pass blocking. Because if he doesn't get a square shot at a blitzing linebacker, he kind of struggles a little bit when he can't use his size. So, but the ability's there. Just needs to be coached up a little bit. For comparison, this is where it got tricky. I think I have some good ones for him, though. I wrote that most want to say Derrick Henry because of his size and similar combine numbers. But I'll give 2 other best-case scenarios and a worst case. His size, running style, and work numbers compare favorably to Leonard Fournette and Steven Jackson. I would say that obviously Jackson would be the best case scenario. I could see him being good early in his career like Fournette before the high mileage kind of kicks in and starts to take its toll. Him and Fournette had very similar combine numbers, by the way. It's like kind of eerie. But for his floor, I wrote Lendale White, somebody who just you don't see much burst or agility and may need to lose some weight to kind of help with the wear and tear on his body. But
I remember that beanbag.
Yeah, how he fits, maybe a mid-round steal for the Redskins if AP shows signs of age, which is doubtful, and guys can't stay healthy, which is probable. But he is not a 3-down back, as he hasn't had many opportunities to show his receiving chops, so he may not fit at all with the Redskins. He could fit on a team that could use some power, like the Ravens, maybe, where he sits for a year behind Mark Ingram, or the Texans could use him to spell David Johnson, or vice versa. Or who knows, maybe the Titans end up taking him and have him back up Derrick Henry for a year before he leaves and then take over because he's very similar to him. Or I also wrote a team like the Panthers could use him to spell Christian McCaffrey.
Honestly, I wouldn't be against. Sorry to cut you off. I wouldn't be against him coming to the Redskins. I mean, you think about it, having an AP basically backup. It's essentially the same thing. And given that they signed J.D. McKissick, they have Bryce Love and everything, those pass catchers, you wouldn't need it out of A.J. Dillon. Now, let's keep it on down south. And it's not even south because it's Boston College. Let's move down. Let's go down to Florida and let's go visit C.J. Henderson, who I think is one of the best cornerbacks in this draft. I still think Jeff Okudah is better, but it's not by much, and the reason that is because I think he is a cat, and I'll explain that in a minute. He ran a 4.39 40 at the combine, which is disgusting, running in the 4.3s as a corner. He put 20 on the bench as well. 6'1", 202 pounds.
Crazy for a corner.
31 and 5-inch arms, 9-inch hands, 37-inch vertical, 127-inch broad jump. In 2019, in only 9 games, he had 33 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and 11 pass breakups. That's almost 1 per game, and he was being challenged. I like him a lot in man versus inside routes. He's very good at being able to trail. I like his physicality against wide receivers going for the ball. He's very good at being able to high point the football and deflect it. Whenever you see him on the football field going for a ball, it's not going to be caught. I like that him a lot. I think he's a number 1 corner in the NFL. The thing is, he just has to go to a place that has other pieces on defense. You know, he can't go alone. He's going to need some other help there. At times, he is like glue. He does stick on guys and does it well. But the reason I call him a cat is because he's a bump tackler. And Mike Hall knows what that means. You guys out there know what that means. And it's somebody that doesn't want to go and hit with all their weight, doesn't want to wrap up, would rather just go up and give a shoulder, giving them a possibility of staying upright and keeping going. That's C.J. Henderson in my book, and that's why I call him a cat. If you look at somebody like Kendall Fuller or for example, like Troy Polamalu, I would classify those guys as dogs. Guys that look for contact, that don't shy away from it, don't try to get away out of making plays. I love the guys that go and scrap and try to make any play that they can. I didn't get that feel from C.J. Henderson. He felt like a cat, and he felt like he wanted his stage for himself. But I like him a lot. If he's in the first round and you're cornerback dependent, I don't see why you wouldn't go that route. It's just he isn't my number 1 corner. That's why I put Jeff Okudah on top of him.
Yeah, I've got C.J. Henderson. I completely agree with you. He's my 2nd-ranked corner as well. But an anonymous NFL scout said that he guarantees at least 40% of the NFL has C.J. Henderson rated over Jeff Okudah, which to me is crazy. I don't see him. When you watch the tape, I just don't. He's not better than Okudah to me. I don't know where this coming from, but then again, I'm not in the NFL, so I don't fucking know.
Yeah,
but
no, go ahead. My bad.
Oh no, but yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, all the measurables are there and whatnot, but I just don't. He's not better than Okudah on tape in any coverage. Not man, not zone. I don't think it's a press. I don't think he's nearly as physical as Okudah can be. So I don't see it. But I watched
3 of his games, and the reason why teams are flying up about him is because that 4.39.
And the 20 reps. That's a lot for a corner.
It is. It's huge for a corner. I mean, he put up more than I think a lineman did. I think he put up more than Charles.
Yeah, he did. He definitely has the potential to be a great man cover corner, but again, Jeff Okudah is just so much of an overall better corner than him. Right. Just like you said, game tape wise, if you watched them and compared them like eye by eye, game by game, Okudah was just overall just way better.
Right. Now, Okudah did also have Chase Young.
Yes, and that is a good point.
Where that could get. He did have a more talented defensive front. But then again, I mean, Florida's defense is supposed to have, 3 edge rushers drafted this year? Jabbar Zuniga, John Green, Word, whatever his name is, somebody else. I mean, so it's not like he didn't have talent up front.
Right, and I think there's something to be said for the fact that he missed games with an ankle injury. That should clearly knock him back behind Okudah. But look, I'm not here putting my name and my job title on it. So
right. Real quick, speaking of job titles, so I just have one thing to say, and that we'll hurry it up. Another report came out today saying that it's apparently the expectation right now is that Andrew Thomas is going to be the first tackle selected, and you know where that makes sense. Forward to the Giants. Think about last year when they took Daniel Jones at number 6. Nobody thought that he should be the 6th overall pick. I could see that happening. They have a needed tackle. I wouldn't put it past Gettleman.
No, it reminds me exactly of Eric Flowers. Sorry, Hall.
Right. Yeah. My bad, Hall. I'm gay. I don't know.
What? I don't know what I was gonna say. I don't remember.
Oh, I thought you were about to say something. But let's go to you, Hall. Anyway, you have AJ Terrell, the cornerback from Clemson. Does he have high upside in the NFL?
I believe that he can be a solid number 2 rotational type cornerback in the NFL. I don't think he'll ever be a a number one type guy, but definitely, like I said, number two. He's 6'1", 195. I believe he put up 15 on the bench press. He ran a 4.42, 40 at the combine. He has a 34.5-inch vert, which is pretty solid. Became a full-time starter back in 2018, which is when they won the national championship. He actually had his best game that year, which was against Bama in the title game. And if you want to flip it to 2019, his worst game was at the national title game against LSU. He just got abused and worked by Jefferson and the rest of those guys. Like we were talking about earlier before we went live, just shooting the shit. His game tape and his play is just very, very, very inconsistent. Which obviously going forward is not. You don't want to like see that in the NFL. You want a very solid, consistent number two cornerback, which he has potential to be. He was first team all conference last year. He started all 15 games in 18 and 19, so he's durable, which it seems to be. He had 37 tackles, 2 picks, and 6 passes defended last year. As I was saying before, he's a long, kind of lanky press cover corner type cornerback. He has very good foot agility and patience at the line of scrimmage, meaning that when the wide receiver is trying to release off the line, he's very good at mirroring them off the line of scrimmage and staying on them in their route. His size and ability and his, like I said, his 34.5 vert. He's very good at contesting 50-50 balls, which in the NFL, there's a lot of 50-50 balls, so that could definitely be an advantage to him. He has clean hip flip. He's a clean hip flipper in his back pedal. He's a great cover 3 cornerback. He's great at reading the quarterback's eyes and making a play on the ball, jumping it. And he has very soft hands, which, again, going forward in the NFL, it's very good to have soft hands, get a couple pick sixes if necessary. And he's an above average athlete, and he has very quick bursts coming out of his breaks. Some of his weaknesses are he lacks the ball hawking skills, downfield routes, which, again, like I said, which would make his ceiling nothing more than just an average number 2 cornerback in the league going forward. He has trouble sometimes in off-man coverage and closing. He gets beat a lot on comeback routes, which is a lot of like back shoulder fades and comeback routes that are big in the NFL nowadays. He needs better run support consistency. 37 tackles is solid for a cornerback, but a lot of teams in the NFL are running a lot of outside zone schemes nowadays, so you're going to definitely need to be able to take on blockers and play the run very well. And again, like I said, he's not the best run tackler. He arm tackles a lot here and there if you look at his tape. And he has very average recovery speed. So if he gets beat off a line of scrimmage or beat any time in the route, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get him on a very big play or a touchdown. And some of the comparisons I had him were to Drake Kirkpatrick of the Bengals, who was again, a pretty solid starter throughout his career. So, if you can be Drake Kirkpatrick for the next 5 to 10 years, hey, good for him.
Right.
I didn't like I thought he was another cat, to be perfectly honest with you. And I definitely thought that he was getting beat very easily off press. I thought his best was when he was 5 yards off. But let's keep it. Sorry. Let's keep it on Clemson, but let's go to Mike Reed with Isiah Simmons after his comments.
Sick. Yeah, you know who AJ Terrell reminds me of? David Amerson.
Yeah.
David Amerson. He's got the body and the physical tools that you want, but you do see him get burned for some reason too much.
Didn't Amerson? No, Brashad Breeland went to Clemson. Amerson went to NC State.
Yeah, he went to NC State.
All right, so let's go. Let's keep it on to Clemson then. So Isiah Simmons, brother. As much as we've already heard about him and his being at number 2,
I was going to go ahead and do Justin Herbert, but then I just started watching Isiah Simmons because I hadn't actually like broke him down yet, and I was just like, dude, this guy's just, it's incredible some of the things that he does. So Isiah Simmons, linebacker / safety / slot corner / outside corner / exotic blitzer / defensive end. This guy can literally do it all. But he's going to play linebacker in the NFL. He's 6'4", 238 pounds, ran a 4.39 40, 39.5-inch vertical, 132-inch broad jump. I mean, we all know about his ignorant stats. 2017, he started 13 games, he played in 13 games as a backup safety, and 45 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss and a sack. 2018, he made the switch to linebacker, 88 total tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, a pick, 3 forced fumbles. And then 2019, he started off 15 games, 104 tackles, 16.5 for a loss, 8 sacks, 3 interceptions, and 2 forced fumbles. This dude is just a freak. So his strengths is, number one, obviously, is his positional versatility. Listen to just how crazy this is. In 2019, he took 299 snaps as an inside linebacker, 262 snaps as a slot cornerback, 132 snaps as a free safety, 116 snaps as an outside linebacker, 100 snaps at strong safety, and 17 as a perimeter cornerback at 6'4", 239 pounds.
That's amazing.
He's got rare size, speed, and athleticism. Since 2006, actually, only one linebacker ran a faster 40 than Simmons, and that was Shaq Griffin, who's 11 pounds lighter, and a lot of that is probably the hand that he's missing. He's good. Isiah Simmons is going to give coordinators the ability to disguise coverages and use exotic blitzes, elite sideline to sideline ability. He can lay the hammer at times. He's an excellent open field tackler, using his length to trip up ball carriers and just wrap people up. Yeah, I wrote good luck throwing over him when he's in zone coverage. How do you throw over somebody with that type of wingspan and that vertical jump at 6'4"? He has fluid hips and enough speed and length to stay with almost anyone in man coverage. He has plus ball skills, as evidenced by his multiple interceptions the last 2 years. He could be the antidote for zone read offenses as well as for quarterbacks that need a spy. He's fantastic in pursuit, and he's the perfect 4-3 weak side linebacker where he's free to roam. But he could also at times play strong side and just take on the tight end. I mean, if that's what you want to do. He's a fantastic blitzer with his agility and speed. I think he rushed the passer something like 73 times and had 8 sacks on them. Like that's a pretty ridiculous win rate.
Yeah, it is.
He uses his second gear length and leaping ability to recover when he's beaten. I mean, you see that all the time in man coverage. When he's covering a receiver, they might put a nice move on him and he gets turned around, but he just uses his length and his speed and athleticism to catch up to the ball and make a play on the ball. And then I wrote, good, in all caps, good fucking luck trying bubble screens with him in the slot. Bubble screens with him in the slot. As soon as he reads that, you're done. Like, there's nothing you can do. You can't get anybody in front of him. But for his weaknesses, his instincts in the running game are not where they should be. He's not somebody that can diagnose run plays. You see him get swallowed up sometimes by tight ends. I do not think that he fits as much in a 3-4 as he does in a 4-3 because he can't really play as a 3-4 inside linebacker. I mean, regardless, you're going to find a way to get him on the field because he can play so many positions. But as an inside linebacker, I just don't see it in a 3-4. He fits best in a 4-3 on the outside. Where am I? He could fill out his frame maybe a little bit more. He's a little lanky, but he's still 240 pounds. So what can you do about that? Yeah. Multiple times I saw tight ends swallowing up, specifically the tape against North Carolina. He got confused and his coverage is a good amount. I mean, there was his defensive coordinator was getting pissed at him that game. And then his comparison, it's so hard to find a comparison for somebody like Simmons because you don't really – he's going to be considered like the new gold standard, I think, as a defensive weapon.
I got you one.
I got 3 of them right here. I got Darius Leonard / Tremaine Edmonds with the type of linebacker with size, speed, and who can do anything and excels in coverage. Also similar to Derwin James with his skill set and just being a defensive chess piece. You got there, Kyle?
Because of his days in college playing as a safety, I have to go with Brian Urlacher. The kind of cover middle linebacker, that big-bodied freak of nature. But obviously Isiah Simmons is way faster than Brian Urlacher, but you know what I mean.
I think Urlacher ran somewhere in the 4.4s or something, like low 4.4s. So I don't think it's that far. I mean, Urlacher was fast as shit. But how he fits, I mean, it's been reported the Redskins are enamored by Simmons. Rivera said there's about 4 centerpieces to build around in this draft. So you got to think that Simmons is one of those guys, along with Chase Young, Jeff Okudah, and Joe Burrow. He's one of the only players I would be happy with if we traded back a few picks. And I'm sure down the line, if we ended up taking Simmons at 2 over Young, I would be okay with it because he does so much. But I think you still take a pass rusher over a defensive chess piece because the pass rusher is going to impact the game a little bit more. But outside of the Redskins, I would say apparently the Giants love him and would be smart to build around him. However, I don't know how he would fit in that defense, especially having Jabril Peppers back there. He's kind of somebody who they already like to move around. The
Right.
Panthers have a huge hole at linebacker, could use his coverage skills in that division with those quarterbacks and those targets. And the Jaguars are another team that would greatly benefit from Simmons' flexibility. I think that should be a top 5 pick. Chances are he's 100% gone in the top 10. I don't think there's really any other chance of him slipping past that.
Yeah, I think the Lions should legitimately be considering taking Isiah Simmons there,
Right.
At number 3, given his ability, and given the fact what Chase Young did to that defense in Ohio State. Maybe we're over-evaluating Jeff Okudah just a little bit, but if I'm Matt Patricia trying to take over that team, I need a defense to be better, I think I would start with Isiah.
Yeah.
And as long as anyone else other than the Giants don't take him, I'm happy with it.
Right. Yeah. The good thing is Giants primarily run a 3-4.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, obviously, like I said, you'll find a way to get Simmons on the field and put him places. And of course, he's going to take away whoever our tight end is if he goes with the Giants. But really, other than that, I mean, if they have him playing inside linebacker, he's not an edge rusher. So maybe they would play him in some safety hybrid role. I don't know, but it'd be interesting to see.
So Keim, always goes back and forth with fans about this because, the common misconception is, the whole base defense and how often your defense is actually in base.
Right.
And it's
something like 20%.
Yeah, it's 20 to 30%. So, you're rarely in that, but you're right. He needs to go to that hybrid type of defense.
Right. If you think about it, that's 1 every 5 plays that he's not on the field. That
Right.
he wouldn't that he'd be a weakness if he is on the field.
Right.
I mean, if it's a running down. So I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, the dude is a freak of nature.
But it sounds like to me, I haven't watched his film yet because he's an easy one to do, but it sounds like to me is just he's kind of like RG3 in a way where he was a track star with an arm. He's not really a football player. He has all the attributes, but kind of having the instincts on how to cap runs and clog run lanes, being able to block shed, that kind of thing. If he still has another level to achieve, if he still can get better, I mean, look out.
And I think he should. Yeah, I mean, remember, he's only played linebacker now for 2 years, and he didn't even play linebacker full time. I mean, other than that, he was a safety. So the run awareness I would imagine, would get better with time. But right now, yeah, you're right. He's just not there. He's a freak of nature.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, that wraps us up for today's show. I appreciate you guys stopping by here. We only have one more week until the draft.
Yeah, next week we got to make sure we do it before the draft. Oh yeah, I'm pumped.
Oh yeah, we do. Well, I was gonna ask you guys what you wanted to do about that. I was gonna wonder if maybe if you guys would be willing to do a late night show and to record as soon as the draft is over, so we can kind of go over what happened and just hypothesize.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm down for that.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then also on Monday,
I have work.
it's true. On Monday, we'll be having Adam from the G Report come by, and we'll be talking late round prospects. He's a scout who's trained by Louis Riddick. He knows what he's talking about. It specializes in late round prospects. So specifies.
There you go.
All right. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Kyle. Thank you so much. Mike Hall.
Yeah.
And Mike Reed.
Hey.
It was good to see you guys. Thank you
Same
so
for
much.
sure.
Remember, like and share our page on Facebook. We'll see you guys next week.
Hey,
Redskins
sweet.
football. Woo!